Hello, I'm Chad. I'm a conflict mediator, and I'm inviting you into conflict. The Irish poet Pádraig Tuama retells a story in John that has been really meaningful to me in thinking about reaction to conflict. Jesus has just passed away, and the apostles have gathered together and they've locked themselves in a room. They're afraid, they don't know what's going to happen next. And in the midst of all of this uncertainty and fear, Jesus appears to them and says, "Peace be unto you." The Hebrew translation of that is shalom. And shalom does mean peace, but it's also a greeting. It's almost like Jesus appears to them and says, hello to fear, hello to conflict, hello to exile. I spent the last 20 years as a conflict mediator, mediating disputes from marriages to child custody, to organizational disputes, to working with Palestinians and Israelis in the Middle East. I've seen hatred, I've seen death, I've seen so much pain and suffering in the world, but most of what I see in conflict is fear. Exile can be more than just being disconnected from a land or a geography or a building. It can be a disconnection from another person, a disconnection from a relationship that I care a lot about. And with exile comes, I think, like an inordinate amount of fear, but also a desire to return. Conflict is unavoidable, and it doesn't have to be bad. But my experience as a conflict mediator, most of the time, it feels really, really bad. The choices that we make, the things that we do in conflict typically make things worse, not better. We return back to the relationships that we desire to have most, not through some sort of revenge or hatred or anger. We return by facing fear with love. So I had these Buddhist friends who once gave me this singing bowl. And the cool thing about this singing bowl is when you strike it, it sings. And when it sings, it's beautiful, it's calming, what have you. But if I strike it and then I grab it really tightly, it quits singing. If I take it and don't actually hold it, and don't hold it with an open hand, it also doesn't sing. And I think a lot about that in my reaction to fear in conflict. Sometimes I'm gripping really tightly to conflict, and I'm afraid that if I can't control this, something bad is really going to happen to me. I've locked myself in a door, in a room, to protect myself. And sometimes there's conflict that I don't want to face. I don't want to hold it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm afraid of what's going to come in the door. And so I've locked myself inside to protect me. I have experienced this same emotion a number of times in my life, but one of the most meaningful moments for me was when I was a 20-year-old serving a mission in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And one day I knocked on this door of this woman, and she seemed excited to have us. She invited us in, gave us lemonade, told us how much she loved Jesus. And I launched into a very carefully prepared, memorized presentation that I had used over the last couple of months, sure that this was the way, the path to lead her to Jesus. And one of those patterns that I followed was asking her and others to read from the Bible whenever we got to an important scripture. And so the first time I got there, I slid the Bible over to her, asked her to read. She politely declined. I got a little frustrated. I moved on. I got to another scripture. I asked her again. She politely declined. I got even more frustrated. About the fourth time, she started getting frustrated, and she stood up and said, "You need to leave." And as she escorted us to the door, I was shocked. I wasn't sure what was really happening here. And I was hurting a bit inside. So I stopped and I asked her at the door, "Why are you asking us to leave right now?" And we wore these black tags on our shirts that had the name The Church of Jesus Christ on them. She pointed right at the Jesus Christ and said, I thought you were representatives of Jesus Christ, and now I know that you aren't. And it was like a knife coming into my heart. I wanted more than anything to represent Jesus. But I also knew that my deepest fear, she had just pointed out, I actually don't. That night, I wrestled with what was the meaning of those words, what was she talking about? And of course, at first, I tried to deflect the blame. She was the problem. She didn't love Jesus enough. Maybe she was the one who was caught up in sin. That's the reason she rejected us and pushed us out. But as the night went on, it became clear to me that it was me. She couldn't read. And I was humiliating her, pushing the book back to her again and again and again. That night I was reading a scripture, and Jesus is about ready to go to his crucifixion, and he's talking to his apostles, and he tells them, as I have loved you, love one another. By this shall people know that you're my disciples. And I realized I had it all wrong. The journey to leading people to Jesus, the journey out of fear was not memorization, was not some slick, polished self. It was vulnerability. It was love. It was connection. It was seeing her the way God sees her. The world needs more peacemakers. Are you in conflict? Are you afraid? Are you metaphorically locked in that room? Are you gripping that bowl too tightly? Are you afraid to look at it at all? We'll be talking to a pastor, to a teacher, to some therapist, and an imam who have successfully navigated the path from exile to return. This series of videos is meant to help us open our hands and say hello to fear, hello to conflict, hello to exile, but most importantly, hello to love, hello to return. We need more peacemakers.